Oh my god, I just had the longest, like, brain buffering, like, that was atrocious. That was like 30 seconds. Like, the entire loading screen, my mind was just like, I'm supposed to be doing again? Also, Alex starts in 14th. This will be interesting. This here is one of the better KTM tracks. Unfortunately for the drivers of those cars, they couldn't really start in the best places. Getting 8th and 10th. I'm sure they can make something out of it anyway, but, I mean, as long as they don't lose places, they'll both score for the first time in a couple of races. Though, I think Blossom has actually lost places, as I've said that. Yeah, I think she's in 11th right now. Though Ryan's in front of her, so that shouldn't be hard to pass him on this track. This is far and away a handling course, and not much else. You need a bit of speed here, but 130 is more than enough, because I can't imagine anyone's going to be getting like 150 here. So I have discussed, I say discussed, there's really a discussion if it's not with anyone else. Determined, unless I like forget that I made this determination, or determinants, I don't think determination is the correct word to use there, that Universe Zero will be a 10-act series, so there won't be any more, and just the reason for this isn't necessarily because it's boring, but I know it's going to be at some point, or especially because, like, I'm slowly running out of ideas. At most, I could make probably 12 before I was completely out of ideas, but even then, I could just, like Act 11, and this is what I plan on doing originally anyway, if I was to continue to 11 and beyond, and have it not stop as long as Keyway was doing the other Hot Wheels series. It was going to be just Act 1 with a couple of slightly different cars. Not really much else, so Blossom's still not past Ryan yet. Okay, never mind, I'll take that back now, I guess. That's me, I'm dumb. That's not Ryan. I wasn't even paying attention to that. She passed Ryan in the first corner. I just noticed RX-7. Must be me. Not how that works. There are definitely 2 of those cars on this track. I'm not the only one. And Madison has the lead once again, but not by very much, and maybe not at all in a moment. This Falcon goes for the lead, and this is like the first time he's led in like 5 or so races. It's ridiculous. Thing is, Alex started in the back, but he has almost as much speed as some of the front running cars, like Silhouette, who is almost he's faster than Chloe. Chloe is in 5th, he is in 10th. This is a very intense race. No, I'm gonna have to do that again. I could probably do 12 acts at most if I wanted to do that way, but the plot develops and like kind of reaches the crisis at 8. I might do 11 because 10 would be the climax, and 11 would be the resolution. Chloe took fourth from Silhouette. Oh, Alex just wrecked, or not really wrecked, but like passed. Actually, I thought that was both the girls. No, just Bubbles. Blossom has a governor in the way, though he's not in the way well enough, I don't think. As speed as I was getting down the straightaway anyway. I wasn't paying attention the first time I went down there with him. Blossom's KTM can get to like 135. The Ferrari gets to 145, so it's faster, obviously. It's just not by... The difference doesn't really, you know, show as much here as it does at, like, any other track. First again being Black Cat County, where I don't think either of them even scored because they have so little power in their car and there aren't enough corners to make up for it. Byrne has also passed Silhouette and is now trying to pass Chloe. Meanwhile, Blossom is now stuck to Silhouette, which might even be doable through the string of continuous corners in like the second half of the course after the long straightaway. Not here, or here. I guess here. Never mind. I didn't think it'd be that early. I figured it would have to be a really short straightaway leading up to it. Which I guess that really wasn't a long straightaway, so... It was very spread out between the top three, and then about the same distance away from all of them is... Those three would be Chloe, who is kind of the engine of a big train right now, which is interesting. It's providing the faster cars in the field a big chance to get, I guess, to where they belong. And Bubbles is a part of it, and she was falling behind a little bit on the like third or fourth-ish lap. I don't know if it's been, like, clear yet, or if I don't think I've said it. But of course, it's certainly a complete secret. One big point of this series is side plots. Which, now, even in some sense, Keyblade has taken up the same concept of, you know, all of these different side plots on his own channel. With the Grease Lightning Strikes Back and any other kind of, like, planned miniseries such as those. If I had to, like, maybe name a character or two that I would kind of want to get, that I would kind of want, like, fleshed out a little more, I'd rather see Otto. Like, he was the villain of an entire game, basically two. But after those two games, like, nothing's ever said of him. He's mentioned, like, of course, he's mentioned he's been in Universe Zero. But to be the, like, actually defined personality that he is, unlike Grease Lightning, where he and Keyblade conspired to create the entirety of its backstory and origin and whatnot, and why it's really relevant at all. That, like, a character that's actually significant in its own right, just out of the Hot Wheels canon, not being noticed in the same way that like the likes of Gearhead and Danny and heck, even Sparky has their own running gag of not being really known as Sparky. But Otto's just there, and especially to be in a prominent vehicle like Prototype 12 almost in every game, just seems weird. Of course, I would also say the Golden Tetrad as a whole. Like, maybe that'd be like a 20-part series, because it's like a 5 per vehicle, and they just... But it wouldn't be actually doing it that way, it would actually be, I don't know. Like, it's like if it does happen, I would further explain how it would work in my mind, but I don't really see the point, because I don't really feel like it will happen. Yeah, so side plots. Of course, the main plot being someone brought us all to these random locations at racetracks across, you know, this world, and we need to discover who it is and either get them to take us back to our universe or just defeat him outright and take ourselves back. Or, you know, get back ourselves. And assist those that were taken from other alternative timelines and get them to where they would like to go. You know, just, you know, the good old heroic reset button. You know, you've changed this. I'm going to have to fix that now. That's kind of most heroes, though. They don't ever aggress, they defend. So, that's basically all heroes. And here would be an opportunity maybe for, because of the limited passing opportunities in this course, and one being on the green extra, being Danny, who's had a less than incredible run this season, even though I think he has won a race, or I think he had like a podium or something, top 3 or top 4. It's only been the KTMs, Ferraris, and Porsches that have actually won a race. They've all run a race. They've all run 13, not 14. Okay, so we have the main plot there. Other subplots just kind of get introduced as other additions get, you know, added. Duh. And... oh, I'll see you later, will we? Alright. Sad, never mind now, I'm thinking about it, I will do 11, because this is 6, I've already got 7 and 8 planned. 9 is going to be the climax, where another addition comes in that greatly affects a subplot. And then 10 is where, you know, the climax happens and things really hit the fan. And then 11 is when said climax is allegedly resolved. Gee, you know, it's only supposed to be 5. I don't. I had a few other interesting ideas, and they became their own thing, and then, you know, we're having 11 now. What precisely the resolution would be, I don't really know. Okay, I thought Bubbles could win, but Captain Falcon's speed is, or the speed in this car down this one straightaway is enough to really outrule that, I think. Maybe it is just, maybe Bubbles is just good enough in a corner? I'm not sure though. Cool, we in that fight. And see, the thing is too, when it comes to the the Act 10, you know, the one that wins is, of course, the one that beats the organizer, which I originally was trying to think of someone else that could be. No, I'm just gonna call him the organizer. Because apparently we just have a thing going of, like, indescript names for the sort of villains. I mean, we had that for, like, 8 games. So that was the main villain. Or the main, like, yeah, villain, basically. There's a subplot of, like, you know, obviously I'm the commentator, I'm the narrator, but I'm also in the races. It's sort of like in the Powerpuff Girls, how the narrator is a fleshed out character that has a personality, even though most of his main job is to describe the setting and events that are about to take place. And that's the goal of normal narrators, but, you know, of course the show takes that further. We have the subplot of, just before the series started, Raceman, while testing cars at the Imola racetrack, ended up with a big crash because he hit a curb. And now it's been kind of known that that curb is actually not really that detrimental to a car. In real life, hitting that curb is almost harmless, unless you're at an incredibly high speed, and Raceman hit it at 110, that wouldn't do anything. Even in Formula 1 cars, when they used to race there, if they hit that curb, they're doing like 140. That barely did anything. Because you're already kind of slowing down for the set of corners before you even get to the curb. So some people wonder, especially Raceman and a couple of other ones like Rigger Motor, who's of course the mechanic for Twin Mill, and other associated people, like he's the main mechanic of Stim Track Challenge as well. But he doesn't have the same, like, courage that the other drivers have. He can drive, but he's just not very... He's not a very bold driver, he just kind of does it. He does it in sport, not for a purpose, basically. Especially not when the purpose is something that can cripple a person in any way, shape, or form. Such as it did to Raceman, though that wasn't even with the purpose of, like, find and stop the organizer. That was the purpose of actual sport. He was doing it because he enjoys driving. That's why his name is Raceman. He is a man that does little more than race. Also, Bubbles is leading, but Blossom is in last. That's just how important qualifying position is. Those best laps. There's definitely not a skill gap in this race at all. Bubbles and Captain Falcon are in like Act 7, basically. And here it is. Captain needed to be a little crazier on the brakes than that. I do believe that it's likely just given Bubbles the victory. Indeed. So, I think the last time they won might have been like Silverstone, I want to say. Silverstone, like modern Silverstone. So it's been like 10 races in the making, but Bubbles has claimed a victory from pole. Other subplots, speaking of Bubbles, being Blossom was taken here shortly after the first races started. She was one of the first ones taken here that we saw, but she was the only one of the three that was taken directly to a racetrack, as far as we are aware, that is. And another subplot then means that Blossom's quest to not only join Team Hot Wheels, which is their generic term that I just use for any Hot Wheels character, in, you know, the search for the organizer, but also for finding her two sisters, which is kind of a concept that, like, the human drivers take to, namely, like, Madison and Chloe, who have sisters as well, or just, you know, siblings as a whole. Of course, it's never going to be established. Like, Danny kind of gets it. You know, actually, Danny does relate to it on a somewhat personal level. His game is revolved around finding and saving his father for the first half, before realizing he's okay, he's just hiding. So, that's why it was agreed that, you know, mutual assistance between the two goals of find the organizer versus find her sisters. It's almost in some form of testament to just how determined these three are to be together, which of course is something that it's almost mandatory, because one or two without the others doesn't usually work. Doesn't usually. And then we have the other subplot, that the last remaining subplot, really, of just like getting these other. I mean, there's really small ones like the delivery guy trying to prove himself as an incredibly talented driver who only lacks in the machinery department. And despite appearing, I think, twice, maybe even I think 3 times actually. He was in Act 2. He was in Act 4 or 5. It was in Act 4, I think, and then he was in Act 5. For sure. Because he's in the tier list event. I don't remember if he wasn't 3. And he might have been in 4. No, because no, he would have been. So it's only been 1 and 5. No, 2 and 5 that he appeared in. And, he hasn't scored in the 30 races he's done between the 2 acts because of his vehicle, and basically only his vehicle. And now Blossom starts last. We're at Circuit de Spa in Belgium for the final round of Act 6. Couples racing. Bubbles gains a couple of places off the line, I think. I think she's in points now. The leaderboard needs to tell me. Yeah, she's in, well, 10th, because Alex is, of course, doing Alex things. Having the fastest and most powerful car here. But the cornering ability you can just see right there. Not even Alex has the perfect car. Falcon technically kind of does. It has some speed and some handling, but even it is outclassed in speed by the 458, and then also outclassed in handling by the crossbows. And for right now, an unconventional top 3. Well, not so much, not as much. Chloe just took 3rd, but 16 Angels leads Vert, who is then ahead of Chloe, who was like the first one of like the usual suspects, the usual 6. The usual 5. I said 6 would be including one of the R8s, probably Silhouette. Despite the fact that that is actually ahead of Silhouette based off just because it started higher. Oh really? I think it's true. Ow. The question just becomes, this will be a 9-minute race. Will Slicknails be able to even hold on for that long, which, I'm not gonna lie, is a decisive no. Because, well, 9 minutes when the car isn't that much faster, and the only thing stopping Chloe from being on his tail already is the fact that Vert has a high top speed, enough to keep her at bay even just down at least this straightaway alone. given how the Porsche drivers act, they may, and likely will, just try and attack here. Though it does not work this time. What 16 Angels needs is, best case scenario for 16 Angels, Byrne needs to actually try and pass Chloe. And it's too late for that now, as, well, her superior power has already carried her basically all the way past Bert. Bert can try and come back at it, which he will actually basically do that, but not well enough. Now, Chloe has excess of 6 whole minutes to catch 16 Angels, who is in a largely inferior automobile. Meanwhile, Alex is right behind that and Ryan. One of his closer partners and one of his greatest enemies. Even if that plot's been resolved long ago. Chloe is already attacking, just like 15 seconds after clearing Vert. Who isn't quite up to form. Maybe he just doesn't like this car or something, but usually Vert can manage something even with underpowered vehicles. Dior 2 being a prime example, being kind of a weaker car. Really honest. It's, of course, we saw its acceleration, but it's also infinite top speed in the Stunt Truck Challenge. It's not infinite, I think it's 300 is where it ends. Oh, 16 Angels finally got passed. Though, this has allowed Byrne to become part of the equation as well, but I don't think Byrne isn't quite as comfortable with that 458 as Alex is. Meaning that I don't think he really has the speed to get around both of these two. Madison is also nearby, so if they play their cards right, the two Porsches might both be on the podium positions. Probably splitting it with Vert, or with Byrne at this rate. Vert would probably be like 5th. Madison is trying the daring maneuver through the almost full speed left-hander. You can take a full speed in like race cars, like a LM prototype or an F1 car. Not in this though. And makes that work. Yeah, makes it work because Vert doesn't have the momentum around the outside. Go down the list a little bit more. Falcon and Alex both get around Ryan, and Alex has only that left to contend with. Who apparently hit someone as well as Alex, unless they both hit the wall. Which, given the number of cars that have the same damage, something tells me they just hit each other. Silhouette is next to attempt to fight the storm. Madison will, basically effortlessly get around Angels here. And it is indeed a Porsche double podium. It cannot be a podium lockout since Captain Falcon is in 8th, and I don't think he has the time to get past all of these cars. He would be able to. It wouldn't surprise me if he were. It would just not in a lap or so, like he has at this moment. He would need probably 2 or 3 more at the very least to get to 3rd. Not to mention Madison would also have to get to 2nd for that to happen as well. So, of course, Falcon also passed Madison, but this is all just facetiously speaking. And it's almost predetermined that none of those things will happen in the remainder of this race. There isn't enough time. There's only about 3-ish minutes left of the race. I guess going back to the discussion earlier about I have to actually be somewhat biased and sort of predetermine as well as I can who the winner will be of the final tournament based on basically car selection, because I really can't control anything else besides namely the driver and the vehicle they have. And even that one, the second one, I don't have full control over because I need to base their car at least loosely off of their Hot Wheels car counterpart, based off of just mostly body style, because performance isn't always the best thing to go by, because if we went by the performance statistics of every car in Velocity X, and only the cars and the people who have in Velocity X, basically everybody would be in old-timey Grand Prix cars, because all those have are top speed and very minimum grip or anything else. Which is exactly what Gearhead has had in Act 4. And probably will have an improved version of it somewhere down the line between Act 8 and 10. Not the same one, but there are better ones in the game that are kind of the old-timey Grand Prix cars. Vert does keep Alex behind, which is more than he could do for anybody else. Bert has been really sticking with Chloe here, though. Just doesn't have the capabilities to actually make a pass happen. Vern, there's no point in bringing it to the garage with grip left in the tires. You might as well just go for it and go for the gold or go for nothing. Because if you're just gonna sit here, that could actually kind of like be like pestilent towards your odds of being. Actually, no. Who am I kidding? That would be if it were like the KTMs versus the R8s, which I don't know how that's gonna go, or if it's the 911 versus Captain Falcon, which he can't do anything about that. He's only one guy. He's only one car. But I mean, there's still no way to lose much because of that fact. I guess maybe he'll heed my words here. Nope, he's too far away. Bizburn, but I think even he has the sense to realize this is too far away to get anything done. And so it was, and so it is, rather, and Goey wins the race. So a newcomer wins the race. That doesn't happen since Blossom first showed up. Teammate Madison completes the podium with Burn. So I'll have my two classmates in an alien life form on the steps of the podium today. Angels with 4th, Vert with still 5th, who managed to hold off Alex for at least long enough. Not anymore, but he held him off for long enough to get that 5th place. That was great. So yeah. Really wish I knew how to cut things. There is no way to do that's really like simple enough. Now we're just going for 16 Angels. Like, the race is over. If you'd done that earlier, maybe you'd be in 4th instead of 5th. But you did no such thing. Alright, so of course Falcon does win the normal championship, but that's only because he has a intentionally, like, I meant to give him a way superior car than he probably should have had. How do you humidifier? And so the final points. Last overall is myself and Ryan Storm, who only managed to score 40 points. In 15 races, that's like just barely over 1 point per driver average. That's like an average of 9th to 10th finishes. Not even that, so yeah. That is kind of embarrassing for both of us. I guess more so for Ryan. I'm basically a newcomer, so I don't have as much to prove that I am capable. And there is kind of like a side plot around me, basically just like, you know, being the narrator, but also driving. But I'm not saying really what it is entirely, but there are 2 more surrounding why I'm here. You might actually have sort of figured out one of them. I don't know if you could figure out both, though, based off of what's happened so far. But my commentary has given subtle hints as to what else could be relevant with me being here. 7th in points, the Corvettes of the Governor and 16 Angels scored 69 points. They are 7th. And 6th overall, the Supras of Danny and Vert scored 96 points. And I'm going to get to the triple digits definitively with that and Silhouette on the R8s, who managed to get 179 points. In 4th in points were the 2 Powerpuff Girls of Bubbles and Blossom in their KTM crossbows, who scored just enough to beat out the R8s. They scored 182 to their 179. Captain Falcon has, as being a solo driver, managed to score 236 points, which of course, albeit not as surprising as, you know, one would believe. He only really won it, I think, because, like, I mean, he's not a bad driver, of course, but he does have the basically better 911, and that's not even, I'm not even going to cover up the fact that that was intentional. I knew that the GT3R was a better car. I gave it to Falcon to balance out that it was only him racing. And 2nd in points, and this ended up being closer than I would have ever imagined it be, based off of what it was like race 10, 11, 12. Madison and Chloe, my 2 classmates in the Porsche 911s, managed to get 352 points, with Madison 3rd in the Drivers' Championship as well. And then the winners of this contest. It's of course the last one left. I don't know why I'm leading up to it. Alex and Byrne in the Ferrari 458s won by a mere 9 points, so 361. They almost lost it due to Madison getting the win, or Colby getting the win and Madison being just in 2nd or in 3rd. Had Madison somehow caught and passed Byrne, they would have won the championship, I think. No. If Madison had caught and passed him, it would have been down to just 3 points. After all this, so it was even between 5 drivers, arguably 6 to 9, because that and Silhouette were competitive, and the Powerpuff Girls, given the right tracks, could also win, as we saw with Magion, I don't know. Anyway, that's curtains for this act, and now we get on to Act 7, the next generation. It would be called that, but it just next generation because I reached the character limit. And I'm not even gonna hide anything here. This is gonna be a full-on. Just drop all of the information. The two Powerpuff Girls have finally found the third sister, and they're all sharing KTM crossbows. Almost as if like they like the car or something. The reason they're in this car, actually, because there's two reasons for why I associate them with KTM crossbows specifically. The first and small one just being that it's one of a few cars that comes in all three of their colors, red, blue, and green. Also, like, you know, the Powerpuff Girls are known for several things, the biggest of which is being really tiny. I mean, I think they're like, what, 1'8" or so? Like 20 inches tall. They're just little girls, so, of course, you know, big things come in small packages, I suppose, is the kind of joke there. Or the kind of idea there. And the KTM crossbow is one of the lightest and most compact cars in the game that can actually still deliver any kind of results. Especially with the normal cars that these guys are driving. Another one being in the Cartoon Network racing game for both the DS and the PS2, which was actually made by the same company that made Hot Wheels Beat That. Or, like, one of the same companies, anyway. And it was only a year earlier, so the game kind of feels similarly, so when I did finally get my hands on it, I was like, oh, I know how to do this, because I've played Beat That all the way through, at least on one occasion, maybe even 2 or 3, I'm not sure though. But in that game, they have kind of compact, like, dune buggies, which are barely much more than a chassis, some wheels, a couple of spare body panels, and a weak but maneuverable package overall. Like, weak is in not fast, but, you know, small cars aren't really meant to go fast. They have the momentum that they can carry as well as other cars can. And that's exactly what the KTM is. It's a small, almost a buggy looking vehicle. Granted, it's actually a purpose-built track car as compared to a little buggy that the girls are driving in this game. And its entire spiel in really anything it's competed in has been kind of the wild card of give me some tight corners and I will demolish everyone. Give me straightaways and I will be, like, shark bait. We have the delivery guy, who has taken a different approach. He has finally moved on from his old Toyota AE86. He's gotten a full-blown Supra, a white livery, a white design on what would be Danny's car, the Toyota Supra. Meaning we'll finally really get to see what the delivery guy is made of. Does he really have all of the skills that the guy claims he has? Or is he just, you know, a backpacker, as it were? Beat returns to tag just more than a couple of walls. Still in the same Porsche GT4 he was in Act 2. I am in Ryan's car, but basically it's my car from the last act, more or less. Hoping to get better results with some different opponents, less or more varied opponents, meaning more people that I can probably actually top. Captain Falcon is in what is a blue version of Metacog's car from Act 1, and would be a blue version of SoFast's car whenever it appeared and from then on. Madison is now in a yellow version of what was Mortimer's car in the 5th act, which is kind of an older version of her car from the last one. An old Porsche 911. Chloe is here in a BMW M4, which was planned at one point to be the Act 2 and 3 vehicle for XT3 before determining that older M3 model from 1992 was actually a better car. Mortimer is here, not in his original car. He is now in a white variation of the Corvette that 16 Angels has been in basically this entire time. Now, you have to bear with me. This is willing suspension of disbelief here. Pretend that we don't see that name, or just know and assume that we, the viewers, are the only ones that know that that's the organizer just based off of the name tag on top of his head. The other drivers, as it were, do not know that the organizer is already here, trying to prey on the kind of weaker of the drivers. And of course, we have some classics. We have Alex and Byrne in their Act 1 vehicles. Well, Byrne was also his Act 2 vehicle, and also his Act 5 car. Good old Lamborghini Countach. He's almost as known for that thing as he is for power pipes at this point, I'm pretty sure. He's probably gotten more screen time in the Countach than he has in power pipes. XT3 does switch around, and these three are significant to me because they've been in all of the acts. They have not missed a single race, I believe. The only one that has is XT3 has missed a race, missed Act 6. He was in Act 5, Act 4 as well. He was in Act 3. He was in Act 2 in that same car, and he was, of course, in Act 1 in the same M3. No, wait, no. Right, I did that. I changed that. These are the, if and when Act 11 is a thing, which I guess it probably will be at this point. Then this would be kind of the resolution. So we have most of the same drivers. Most. Deliverance and the Governor weren't there before. And that's about it for that. But the reason XT3 was the one that I went with for making most of them is because XT3 is still kind of learning. He needs to get as much possible time on the track as he can. Because of course, robots have active learning systems. They learn from what they're told and what they do and data gathered from actions they perform. And XT3 needs time to gather that data so that it can learn and be as good a driver as Gearhead and Racecam are. And then finally, he's recovered from his injuries, folks. Raceman is back on the circuit for the first time since the end of Turbo Racing. And he has, albeit kind of a slower car, he's not in perfect condition. So he's kind of on training wheels. That Audi Sport is nowhere near as fast as some of the other cars here. But it's really stable, pretty easy to drive, being it's all-wheel drive. And kind of makes as a nice safety cushion for somebody who still has kind of a sore leg every now and then. Believe me, Raceman wanted to get in full tilt. He wanted to get in much faster cars, but people that knew him well enough, like Rigger Motor, the Twin Mills, Alex, basically just said, no, stop, you're gonna hurt yourself if you try to drive anything extreme, so try to keep it a little bit down to earth for at least this championship. And maybe take it up a notch when everyone can synonymously agree that you are, ready to, finish completely. Like when you've recovered, then you can go on to full speed mode. And it will not really for the drift and exposition thing, but I think I'll save most of that for 8 and 9. which I'll probably purposely cut short in some way or another, probably with fewer rounds. That won't be this one. It won't be 8 though. 8 I may change to have fewer laps in one of the last 2 races or something. I don't know. Because I would like to actually leave time in for those in the future. Because they kind of are like the... It's like the credit scene that kind of like... Stay tuned for scenes from our next episode. In the way that it gives information on things inside and out of the plot. And, of course, it also gives smaller introspectives than what earlier in this act had. But still gives kind of, like, background information on, me as the narrator and as a person. And relevance to this channel. Keyblade, that is, not my own. Also, if Raceman's on the track, that does mean that the self-driving program is just the one sitting in the pits. Though it won't be doing much attacking anymore. It didn't really do that much in the first place, but now it's only going to do it like maybe once per act at most, if it even does anything at all. Maybe use the high effect later on, if we get into some of the bogeys that the most can expect to find. Because of course, what's a bad guy without any kind of henchman, right? I mean, he's got to have someone, the organizer. He can't just try and take on this group of like 40 drivers on his own. Doesn't matter how good of a driver he is, no one can do that. And if he's doing this, and he wanted to see people drive, maybe that's kind of what this is like, but he just wants to see if this competition is really there. He's like maybe pulling like a nitrous oxide from Crash Team Racing. He just wants to see just how tough his competition is before he decides to dive in and embarrass it, but we'll just see if he can do that. And you can kind of, again, Lane's special disbelief, he is kind of getting in here with the weaker crowd, trying to weigh his chances. If he can crush or compete with this slot, then he can probably just, if he crushes this slot, he shouldn't have much of a problem with the tough guys. Even though 2 of the arguably tough guys, they did just win the last championship, are here. Byrne and Alex in their classic Ferrari and Lamborghini. He's still like a friendly rival. They're like Ryu and Ken in some ways, because they're just like, they're the classic group, they're like the classic 2 of this group, of this entire series. They've been here in every race, every time, and they've always been mostly successful. Byrne a bit more aggressive, of course. He has made a few unwanted rivalries, especially with XT3, and even to a point his own teammate, but not so much as XT3. XT3 is also probably here to maybe give Byrne a piece of his robot mind, who knows. But anyway, that'll be all next time in Universe 0. And they're racing to really prove themselves here. Alex kind of has a bit riding on this too. If one of the kind of like big names here wins, they could probably get a crack at the real Hot Wheels competition back in their home universe. Which, of course, if anyone wants to go to the universe, like I mentioned before, one reason that they're finding the organizer is to see just how he got them there and get them back to wherever everyone wants to go. Well, if someone decides to tag along with them, there's not really much they can or will do to stop them. Where they want to go is where they want to go, so... And really, kind of makes you wonder where these 3 are going to go. I mean, they're staying here right now, but will they actually help against the organizer? Or do they need to get back to Townsville? They do have a sense of duty in certain ways. Of course, being superheroes, they're not entirely bound to Townsville, but they have been missing for a few months now. Meaning, if the town isn't completely destroyed and maybe there's nothing to go back to, perhaps Maybe they just have to weed out the dictatorship that's probably moved in by this point. So they're probably racing against the clock here, just as much as they're racing against any kind of opponents. Anyway, that's for the future to tell.